I thought this Christmas would be different. I wrapped the gift for my grandson weeks in advance, even practiced what I'd say when I saw him. But 3 days before Christmas, I got a message from my son. "We don't want you at Christmas. It's better this way." No explanation, no warmth, just rejection. Again, it felt like being erased by my own blood. I've missed holidays before, deployments, late-night shifts, divorce weekends. But this one stung differently. It wasn't duty or distance keeping me away. It was choice, their choice. So, I packed a bag and drove. I didn't know where I was going until I ended up at a church bulletin board offering Christmas for the Forgotten. Funny. That title fit like a glove. That night, I sat at a plastic table with strangers, an ex-addict, a runaway teen, a widow with shaky hands. We shared dry turkey, warm cider, and broken stories. One boy, Jaden, kept staring at me, said I looked like someone who once cared. I didn't know what he meant, but when he slipped his tiny hand into mine as we sang Silent Night, something cracked open in me. This isn't a story about getting what you want. It's about discovering what you need. When the people you love most close their doors, and strangers somehow offer you a key. I was a father who failed, a husband who left. But that night, with people who owed me nothing, I remembered how to show up. If you've ever been shut out by family, forgotten at the table, or made to feel like you don't belong, stay with me. This story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. The text lit up my phone screen just as I was wrapping the last corner of the gift. "We think it's best if you don't come for Christmas this year. It's better this way." No dad, no signature, just sterile words that sliced through the quiet like a blade. I stared at it for what felt like an hour, waiting for a follow-up that never came. I read it again, and again, and then again, just to make sure it didn't somehow change in the space of 30 seconds. Michael, my son, the boy I used to carry on my shoulders through snowbanks, the boy who used to fall asleep in the back seat clutching a toy fire truck I gave him for Christmas in '95. Now a grown man, with a wife, a kid of his own, and apparently no room left for me. I sank into the armchair, the wrapping paper crumpling under my palm. The lights on the tree blinked lazily in the corner. I'd spent the whole week getting the house ready, just in case they decided to come. Stocked the fridge with eggnog, dug out the ceramic Santa Clara used to set on the mantel, even strung up those damn icicle lights she loved, though they never quite hung straight. But now, I was alone. Again. It wasn't new. Not really. Ever since Clara passed, holidays had become an exercise in pretending. Pretending that phone calls were enough, that FaceTimes could fill the chair at the dinner table, that one visit a year could replace decades lost. I couldn't blame them entirely. I had missed so much. Late shifts, conferences, overseas jobs. Clara did most of the parenting, while I chased promotions and progress reports. I thought providing was enough. That being gone would make coming back sweeter. But Michael had always seen through that. After Clara died, I tried to make it up to him. I offered money, helped with the down payment on their house, took his son to the zoo that one summer. But something in his eyes stayed guarded, like a door I never had the key to. I pressed the call button anyway. Stupid, really. What did I expect? A change of heart? It rang twice before cutting off. I tried again. This time, it picked up, but it wasn't Michael. "Hello?" a sharp voice answered. It was Julia, his wife. "Julia, it's Frank. Can I talk to Michael?" A pause, then colder. "I think you already got the message." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I sat there, phone still to my ear, until the screen dimmed. Christmas was in 3 days. My suitcase still lay half-packed by the door. The gift, an antique compass I'd found in a little shop downtown, still wrapped and ready for Lucas. I'd even written a note. So you always find your way, even when things get confusing. Now it sat there like a relic from a life I no longer belonged to. I walked out to the porch, the air brittle against my skin. Snow had started to fall again. Thin, lazy flakes drifting like ash. Across the street, the neighbors were inflating a giant Santa, their kids squealing in delight. Inside, the silence pressed down like a weight. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to cry. So I wandered, first to the kitchen, then to the garage. Eventually, I found myself walking to the little library box near the bus stop. I opened it, hoping maybe someone had left a Christmas mystery or something to distract me. Instead, I found a flyer. It was folded and slightly damp, but the title caught my eye. Christmas for the Forgotten, December 24th, 6 p.m., Community Room, St. Luke's. Underneath, in shaky handwriting, no one should be alone on Christmas, especially not you. There was no phone number, no RSVP, just a date, a time, and an address. I stood there, flyer in hand, the snow curling around my shoes. Across the street, the inflatable Santa toppled over in the wind, and the children shrieked with laughter. I wasn't laughing, but for the first time in hours, I wasn't frozen either. I folded the flyer, tucked it into my coat pocket, and walked back home. The building didn't look like much. A faded brick structure tucked between a shuttered laundromat and a pawn shop. The snow had turned to slush, and the neon cross above the church blinked like it hadn't made up its mind whether to work or not. But inside, through foggy glass, I could see lights strung across the ceiling and silhouettes moving in rhythm to muffled holiday music. I hesitated at the door. Part of me still expected someone to shove a chair under the handle, laugh, and say, "Gotcha, old man." But when I stepped in, all I saw was warmth. The scent of cinnamon and roasted ham hit me first. The room was packed. Dozens of people gathered around mismatched tables, drinking cider, laughing, singing. A small group was playing cards in the corner. Another clapped along to an off-key rendition of Jingle Bell Rock. No one looked at me like I didn't belong. A woman approached me, maybe late 70s, dressed in layers of red wool and silver bangles that clinked when she moved. Her hair was white and wild, like snow that refused to settle. "Welcome, love," she said, placing a hand gently on my arm. "I'm Lucy. You must be one of the forgotten." I opened my mouth to explain, but she stopped me with a smile. "No need. We don't ask questions here. We just sit, eat, and remember what it feels like to be seen." She guided me to an empty seat near the center of the room. A man passed me a steaming plate of turkey and stuffing without a word. A girl offered me cider and winked. "This," Lucy said, settling beside me, "is real family. Not the kind born in hospitals, but the kind you build when blood lets you down." I didn't know what to say. My eyes stung, and it wasn't from the cider. We ate, we talked. Someone started a game of charades and dragged me into it. I mimed an old cowboy film so badly, the table howled with laughter. For the first time in years, I forgot to check my phone. Then came the forms. Lucy handed out small slips of paper during dessert. "Just for housekeeping," she said. "Helps us keep the lights on, track attendance, that sort of thing. If you want to contribute, we won't say no." It seemed harmless. The paper was filled with blanks: name, Address, emergency contact, optional donation. I started filling it out, not thinking much of it. Retired? Lucy asked softly. Yeah, I nodded. Used to be in logistics, drove freight, consulted some firms after. Must have been good pay, she said, tone still friendly. I paused. Enough to live. She smiled. We're glad you're here, Frank. But something in her tone stuck. After turning in the paper, I noticed two men take it to a side room. One returned with a laptop. Another had a small portable scanner. It wasn't subtle, but no one seemed to care. They were scanning all the forms, not just for housekeeping. I felt it then, that old prickling at the back of my neck. Logistics teaches you patterns, flow, efficiency. You learn what's routine and what's staged. I stood, made my way toward the drink table. Just to move, just to watch. That's when I saw the boy. He couldn't have been more than 10. Skinny, pale, brown knit cap pulled too low over one eye. He stood near the door, chewing the string of a candy cane, staring at me. When our eyes met, he didn't smile. He just walked over slowly and tugged at my sleeve. You shouldn't have signed that, he whispered. I leaned down. What do you mean? They do this every year, he said, voice barely audible over the music. They find old people with money, make them feel special, then take it. I blinked. How do you know? 'Cause last year they took everything from Miss Janine. Her trailer, her checks, said she donated. She cried so hard she couldn't talk. My mouth went dry. Why are you here then? He looked at the floor. I come for the food. I glanced back at Lucy, still laughing, with a man who looked too polished to be lost. One of the clipboard guys caught my eye, and I quickly turned away. The boy tugged again. If you leave now, they won't come after you. What's your name? I asked. Jaden. You got somewhere to go? He shrugged. I stared down at my untouched dessert. The fork, the plate, the tinsel, all of it suddenly looked like stage props. And me? Just another audience member in a show that wasn't meant to end well. The ride home was silent, though my mind wasn't. I left before dessert hit the table again, citing a stomachache. Lucy had insisted I stay. A man with a clipboard even offered to walk me to my car. I politely declined, my gut screaming not to turn my back. Jaden had already vanished by then, disappeared as quickly as he came. Back home, I flipped on the hallway light and locked the door behind me. The quiet felt different now. Not comforting. Hollow. I tossed my coat on the rack and headed for the bedroom, needing something familiar. That's when I noticed it, an empty spot on the dresser. I stared for a moment, unsure of what was missing. Then my chest tightened. The box. A small oak box Clara gave me on our 10th anniversary. Inside were snapshots. Her on the porch with Michael. Michael as a toddler with spaghetti on his face. My son's first Father's Day card written in shaky crayon. Beneath that, Clara's letters. The kind you write when you're unsure if you'll ever see someone again. She'd left them for me after her diagnosis. I searched the room. Dresser drawers, the closet, even under the bed. Nothing. It was gone. A cold fury surged up through my ribs. I returned to the living room and opened every drawer, cupboard, and cabinet. Nothing had been forced open. No signs of entry. Just a house missing its heart. The only place I'd been was St. Luke's. The next morning, I returned. There was no music this time. No lights, no laughter. Just Lucy and a few of her people packing up folding chairs and sweeping confetti into trash bags. She smiled as if nothing had happened. Back so soon, sweetheart? I'm missing something, I said, voice low. Oh? A scarf, maybe? Hat? She asked, feigning concern. A box, wooden, about this big. I held up my hands. It has my wife's letters, my son's photos, things no one but me would want. Her smile didn't falter. That sounds special. It is. So special, in fact, that I'd like it back. Now. A girl, 14 at most, paused, sweeping. She glanced toward Lucy, then back at me. Her eyes flicked down, ashamed. I saw it, she said softly. Last night. Lucy stiffened. I asked if it was okay to look inside. Miss Lucy said, memories are for the weak, that we can't move forward if we're holding on. Where is it now? I asked. The girl looked down at her shoes. Lucy cut in, smile gone. We don't steal, Frank. That's not what we do here. No, I snapped. What you do is manipulate, exploit, and erase. You wrap it in cider and carols, but it's theft just the same. Her jaw clenched. We give people something your precious, real family never could. A seat, a meal, a sense of mattering. If someone parts with a few unnecessary trinkets in return. I didn't let her finish. I turned, walking out before rage made me do something regrettable. Outside, the cold slapped me clean. Jaden stood by the curb, arms wrapped around his thin torso, eating a piece of bread. You were right, I said. He nodded. She take your stuff too? I didn't answer. My silence was enough. I stayed nearby, he added, in case you needed help. I stared at him. This kid had no coat, no home, and yet here he was, offering help. Where do you sleep? I asked. Church steps sometimes. Back of the liquor store, if it's not icy. No parents? He shook his head. Mom left a year ago. Dad's in jail. The ache in my chest shifted. Not anger, not grief. Something older, something primal. Come on, I said. You're not staying out here tonight. I don't do shelters, he muttered. Too many rules, too many creeps. You'll stay with me. One night, no expectations. He hesitated, then nodded. Back at the house, I made him grilled cheese and hot cocoa. He devoured both like they might vanish. I don't get it, he said finally, curled up in Clara's old chair. Why'd you go there anyway? That church? I leaned against the counter. Because my son told me I wasn't wanted this Christmas. I thought, maybe strangers would hurt less. Jaden's brow furrowed. Your kid told you not to come? Like, for real? Yeah. That's messed up. Yeah, I echoed, though my voice was thin. He looked at me for a moment. You're not like them, you know? The ones who go there for attention. You're quiet. Like you lost something and don't know where to find it. I stared at him. This boy, 10 years old, street smart, bruised by life, saw through me better than my own son did. Maybe that was the start of it. Not forgiveness, but something close. The streets were quiet, save for the crunch of snow beneath our boots. Most houses had dimmed their Christmas lights, but a few still blinked in lazy rhythm, casting faint reflections on the sidewalk. Jaden walked beside me, silent, his small shoulders hunched beneath a borrowed hoodie. The coat I'd offered was too big, but he didn't complain. We passed the shuttered diner on Elm, its windows fogged from the inside. I paused. Wait here, I said, ducking into the corner store next to it. Minutes later, I returned with 2 sandwiches and a pair of hot chocolates in foam cups. Jaden took his with wide eyes. You didn't have to. I know. We found a bench in the park just down the block. Snow had gathered on the seat, but I brushed it off, spread an old newspaper across the slats, and motioned for him to sit. He unwrapped his sandwich like it was treasure. Tuna? It was either that or ham that looked like it gave up last week. He grinned, biting in. For a while, neither of us said anything. The wind rustled the trees, carrying distant echoes of a midnight choir. It was Christmas Eve. I felt it in the air, soft, aching, raw. Jaden finished half his sandwich, then leaned back, legs swinging just above the ground. "Why'd your kid not want you?" he asked, voice casual, like he was asking about the weather. I didn't answer immediately. "Was it something you did?" I exhaled, watching my breath vanish into the cold. "I wasn't around much," I said finally. "Missed birthdays, recitals. I thought making money was how you showed love. Turns out, I was just absent. And then when I finally tried to come back, it was too late. The seat was already taken by silence." Jaden sipped his cocoa. "So, you were a bad dad?" "I was a lost one." He looked up at me. "You still are?" I blinked. He set his cup down carefully, then pulled his knees up onto the bench, hugging them to his chest. "My dad used to hit me when he drank. Then when he got locked up, people said I was better off." "You weren't?" He shook his head. "I was just alone in a different way." I reached out, hesitated, then placed my hand gently on his back. He didn't flinch. "I don't want to replace anyone," I said. "Not your dad, not your mom. But if you need someone, for tonight, for tomorrow, even just for this moment, I'm here." He didn't speak, but after a few seconds, he leaned his weight into me, just slightly, barely noticeable, but it was enough. "I used to think I had time," I said, more to myself than to him. "Time to fix things. Time to say sorry. But now I see. Time only works when people are still waiting on the other side." Jaden glanced up. "You ever say sorry?" "To Michael. Once. But I think he was too hurt to hear it." He was quiet for a while. Then he asked, "Would you say it again?" "If he let me." Jaden leaned his head against my arm. "You don't gotta wait for him. You can practice on me." I laughed, the sound catching in my throat. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry for all the fathers who left, for all the promises they broke, for every Christmas you waited and no one showed. I'm sorry for becoming part of the silence." Jaden didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just reached out and wrapped his arms around my middle, held tight. "Thanks," he said. "For what?" "For not treating me like something you were stuck with. For being here when everyone else left." We sat like that until the cocoa went cold, the snow thickened, and the park lights flickered out one by one. I don't know if I was forgiven that night, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to ask. It was just past 2 a.m. when the phone rang. Jaden was asleep on the couch, curled up beneath Clara's old Afghan, his soft snores barely audible over the humming heater. I was at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of untouched tea, thinking about writing Michael another letter. Something simple. Honest. The sound made me jump. Unknown number. I let it ring once more before answering. "Hello?" There was a pause, a breath. Then, "Dad?" My heart seized. "Michael?" Another pause, then a choked breath. "Yeah." I stood, moving toward the living room like I needed something to hold on to. "Is everything okay? Is Lucas all right?" "He's fine," Michael said quickly. "They're all asleep." He sounded tired, older, the kind of tired that came from holding something too heavy for too long. I wasn't expecting, I didn't think I'd hear from you," I said. "I know," he murmured. "I wasn't going to call, but I saw your letter." I closed my eyes. I meant every word. I know that too. There was another long silence. Then softly, he said, "You don't know why I pushed you away. I figured it was the past, the years I missed. It was that," he said. "But not just that." His breath hitched. "I didn't want you to know this, but I think you deserve to. Not because I forgive you, but because I can't carry it anymore." I sat down. The silence between us thickened. "Mom didn't die from cancer, Dad." My hands clenched. "What are you talking about?" She took her own life." The words didn't land all at once. They hovered in the air, circling, stinging like wasps before they finally struck. "No," I whispered. "That's not the hospital." "They lied," Michael said. "For me. For you. They said it was the complications from the chemo. Said it was peaceful." I pressed a hand to my chest, willing the room to stop spinning. "Why?" "Because I was 13, he said. "Because they thought the truth would destroy me. And now, it already did." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. "She left a note," Michael continued. "I found it. Weeks after the funeral. Stuffed in a drawer under her scarves. I didn't show anyone." He paused. I kept it. Read it over and over. I still know every word. What did it say? That she was tired. That she felt alone. That you were always gone, and she didn't want to keep pretending to be okay for everyone else. I buried my face in my hand. She wrote, "Frank is a good man, but not a present one, and I need presents more than promises." "I didn't know," I whispered. "I didn't know it had gotten that bad." "I know you didn't, but I did." I watched her fade, one piece at a time. "And you were always on a plane or in another city or saying next week." I hated you for that. I felt like I was drowning in my own heartbeat. "I tried to forget," he continued, "tried to grow up and move on. But every time you sent a birthday card or called from some hotel lobby, I saw her again. I saw that last night. Her room. The chair. I can't unsee it." Tears slipped down my face, hot and silent. "I don't want to hate you forever," Michael said, "but I needed you to understand. I needed you to know that it wasn't just disappointment. It was grief, rage, guilt." "I'm sorry," I said, voice raw. "I'm so sorry, Michael." "I know," he said quietly. The line went still. Not dead. Just still. Then he said, "I'm not ready to see you, to have you over. But I wanted you to know why. You deserve that much." "I'll wait," I said, "as long as it takes. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Then I'll wait anyway." For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then, "Good night, Dad." And he hung up. I sat there long after, my palms pressed against my eyes. Not just from pain, but from something else. The truth hadn't set me free, but it had broken the silence. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a pen in hand and an envelope already addressed. The paper was blank. For the longest time, I didn't know where to start. I didn't want to beg. I didn't want to revisit apologies that had already been said. I just wanted to share something honest, something real. So I told him about the night in the park, about the cold bench and the too big hoodie on Jaden's back, about the sandwiches, the cocoa, about how, for the first time in years, I felt like I had done something right, not perfect, not noble, just right. I told him how Jaden had asked me if I was a bad father, and how I'd said I was a lost one, how the boy hadn't judged me. He'd just listened. And how, when he hugged me and thanked me for staying, I felt a piece of something slide back into place. I didn't ask for anything in the letter. I didn't ask for a visit, or forgiveness, or another chance. I just let him know I understood now, and that whatever he needed from me, space, time, nothing, I'd honor it. I folded the letter, sealed it, and walked it to the mailbox myself. Then I went online and filled out the paperwork. The bulk of my savings, the life insurance that once had Michael's name, the rental property upstate, it was all redirected to the Community Foster Care Fund, where Jaden had finally agreed to stay until we could figure out something better, something permanent. I kept the house, the memories, a few of Clara's things. That was enough. For a week, nothing happened. Jaden came by after school most days. He brought comics and stories about the other kids. I helped him with math. We watched old movies. We laughed more than I expected to. Each day, I checked the mail. Not for a letter from Michael, but for closure. It never came. Instead, something else did. On the 8th day, Jaden showed up carrying a small package. It was wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine. No return address. He held it out, solemn. This was on the porch. I didn't open it. I took it carefully, my fingers already trembling. It was light, familiar. I pulled away the paper. It was the box. The oak box I thought was gone for good. I opened it. Everything was there. The photos, the letters, even the crayon Father's Day card with the shaky stick figures and crooked smile. Tucked on top was a new envelope. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. A single sheet of paper, folded neatly. If you're free tomorrow, we're having dinner. Lucas asked if Grandpa could come. No signature, no love, no apology, just an invitation. And somehow, that meant everything. Jaden leaned over my shoulder reading. So, are we going? I looked at him. We? He shrugged. I mean, if you want backup. I smiled. You think you can handle a 5-year-old who eats like a garbage disposal? Jaden grinned. Only if there's pie. There will be, I said. Clara's recipe. She wouldn't forgive me if I didn't bring it. The next afternoon, I stood in my kitchen, pulling the apple pie from the oven. The crust had split just slightly, the cinnamon bubbling at the edges. It smelled like 1992, like home. Jaden was dressed in a too small button-up I'd found in a storage bin. His hair was combed. His shoes still didn't match, but neither of us cared. I carried the pie. He carried the box. We didn't talk much on the drive. The radio played carols we didn't sing to. When we pulled into the driveway, I saw Lucas's face in the window. He pointed, smiled, disappeared from sight. The front door opened slowly. Michael stood there. He didn't smile. But he didn't close it either. Just stepped aside. And for the first time in decades, I stepped through a door that wasn't shut behind me.